Well, hello, and welcome to That's Not Right Thursday for 5 more minutes. I'll tell you one thing that's not right, and that is when a person doesn't get to the point of managing their day, then they don't do the valued things within that day that they have planned for. Okay? So, today was not truly one of those days for me. Okay? I just want you to know that I have had plenty and more than my share of them. It's just that today, what is really important for me to do this video. But there were a lot of other things that were important to do today, too. And so I am doing this in the very end of it, and really I want you to know that some videos I will take so much more time with, okay? But so that I could get it in on That's Not Right Thursday, and I can make a comment or two about what's not right, I decided to go ahead and post something. Okay? Now, on my last video, I told you we were dipping our big toe into the subject of, well, there is a chapter in an audiobook that I've been listening to, and I'll read the title because I'm really wanting to talk about the different points that he talks about. They're also really great and really interesting, and I know that you'll appreciate them as much as me. So, this is from The Divine Conspiracy by Dallas Willard, and the chapter is called What Jesus Knew, Our God-Bathed World. Okay? So, I'll tell you a quick little bedtime story. When my daughter was young, this is nearly 30 years ago. Well, minus a couple good years. And we were around her grandpa, one of her grandpas, okay? She was around one of her grandpas for longer than that, and that was my father, her dad's father, for a shorter time. And he would always say, I don't know about you, but I ain't dying. Okay? And we would kind of, think to ourselves, well, that's a nice thought. But, and then some years later, and not too much later, he was not present in his body on the earth, right? And so, yeah, we in our world will very often think with our mind or matter over mind that what we see in this world of matter is what matters and what is real and is what is reality, right? But that's not right, because he was actually right after all. Okay? And in this chapter, Dallas Willard really opens our minds when we take a listen to or look at this chapter, I hope. But also, I would like to share some notes when I've had a chance to really get some better notes. But this is the gist of what he's talking about, and that is, how even in the New Testament, writers talked about those who sleep in the Lord. Have you ever thought about how when you sleep, are you unconscious? Only to the surroundings that you're unconscious of when you're awake. But you're not. There are things that your mind is thinking on in that other reality, right? In that space, okay, of sleep. So it was just so interesting to hear and talk about, like, okay, so just imagine that a child is playing in the field and is worn out, falls asleep, and their parent picks them up and brings them into their bed, and the next thing they wake up, they're in their room. Okay? Now, that is one way that you can think about what we see as death, but what the reality is of a change in where we're where we're conscious and what we're conscious of, right? And not to say that we're like, because Jesus on the cross, he what he said was he made a covenant with the person who died on side of him on the day he died, that he would see him in paradise. Okay, so it's not to say that, oh, these people, they're unconscious necessarily, because if God is at work in the world, in our reality, in the spirit world with us, then we might not so readily just assume that they're just watching bystanders, right? Yeah, so that was an interesting point as well. But mostly just to know that, we don't have to be so, what's the word, hesitant about, oh, what we call death, and to and we don't mourn like the world who don't have hope, because they just don't understand this concept of, when you are trusting in God for eternal life, that he did everything we needed to continue to exist. Well, then that is a very solid reality. In my last video, I talked about how I really enjoyed Dallas Willard's uh, use of the word, what was the word? Precisely, or of course, or just such certainty in his choice of words, because we're talking about something that is not, oh, it's a nice idea, or, oh, it's one way to look at it, but the reality, to help us to, live our lives, and not just want to jump off the deep end, because we're like, oh man, oh, one day we're gonna cease to exist. Oh, like, why is anything matter, right? That's not true. It's not just a way to avoid having those thoughts. It's a real way to look at life and to live our lives. And I'm going to close with this thought that I did jot down. Jesus shows his apprentices how to live, his apprentices how to live in light of the fact that they will never stop living. This is what his students are learning from him. So, there was another quote he gave from someone, I can't remember who, said, if I'd known how long I was going to live, I would have taken better care of myself. And he kind of challenges us to think like that. If I knew that this is the truth, what would we care for in ourselves today? What would we prioritize, right? I talked about the things that we don't want to go through the day. It's not right to get to the end of the day and we didn't do the things that were important to us, right? So let's think about that even broader than just the day. Think about it and a day becomes year after year, right? What are we thinking about? How are we taking care of the things that God gave us to care for? Okay? For eternity. So that we're fit for eternity, so to speak. So, that's one to grow on. I hope that you have a really good night's sleep in that other conscious state. And I hope that you have sweet dreams. Okay? So next time I will see you is, I'm not sure, to be very honest, but tomorrow is Friendship Friday, so I hope to check in with you. Talk to you soon.